She had been counting the days on the cracked mud wall, with a small piece of charcoal she hid under her mattress, with her brown eyes filled with tears and rolling down her dark brown cheeks. One thin mark for each night. She fell asleep whispering the same question into the dark. Will anyone remember me? When she drew the final mark, she did not sleep at all, because this was the day she believed might finally be different. The day she told herself again and again could not hurt as much as the others. Today was her birthday, and even in a place like this, birthdays were supposed to mean something. They were supposed to mean you mattered, even if you were poor, even if you were an orphan, even if the world had learned how to walk past you without looking. Her name was Lina, and she had turned 10 that morning, though no one knew it yet, or maybe no one cared enough to ask. The orphanage sat on the edge of a dusty town, surrounded by red earth, rusted iron roofs, and the distant sound of motorbikes starting up before dawn. When the first rooster crowed and the sky began to pale, Lina rose quietly from her thin mattress, folded her blanket the way the matron demanded, and washed her face from a small plastic basin with cold water that made her gasp. She wore her cleanest dress, a faded blue one she saved for special days, and tied her hair carefully with a worn ribbon she had found near the borehole months before. As she worked, she warned her heart not to hope too much, because hope could break you, but she could not stop it anyway. She stepped into the open courtyard where the children gathered every morning, the smell of porridge already rising from the kitchen shed. Women moved quickly, barking instructions. Children laughed and argued, and metal bowls clanged together. Lina walked slowly, her eyes searching every face, waiting for a smile held just a little longer, waiting for someone to say her name differently. She imagined someone clapping, imagined a small song, imagined even a single sweet hidden in a pocket. But the morning moved on like it always did, loud and busy and careless. Still, she waited. Maybe they were planning something. Maybe the matron would remember later. Maybe someone had counted the days too. She swept the compound, fetched water from the tap, and helped the younger children tie their sandals. Each time a name was called, her heart lifted and then sank again when it was not hers. By the time breakfast ended and bowls were stacked away, the tight knot in her chest began to hurt. At lunchtime the sun burned high, and the hope she had protected all morning finally began to crumble. No one said anything, no one looked at her twice. When the last child finished eating and the yard grew quiet, the truth settled inside her like a stone, heavy and unavoidable. This birthday would pass like all the others, unnoticed. She pressed her lips together to keep from crying, because she had learned that crying only made adults impatient. She asked if she could go outside the gate for a while, saying she felt unwell. The matron waved her away without looking. Lina walked down the dusty road behind the orphanage until she reached a wide neem tree that offered shade from the harsh sun. She sat on its roots, hugged her knees, and finally let the tears fall. They dropped into the red dust, darkening it in small circles that vanished almost as quickly as they appeared. Between sobs, she whispered, "Happy birthday to me," because saying it out loud made it feel real, even if no one else heard. She did not know how long she sat there, listening to the hum of insects and distant voices from the market, until she noticed footsteps slow and stop nearby. She wiped her face quickly, ashamed of being seen like this, but when she looked up, she did not see anyone from the orphanage. She saw a man she had never seen before, standing by the road with a small woven bag slung over his shoulder. His clothes were dusty, his sandals worn, and his face held the tired kindness of someone who had seen many hard days. He cleared his throat gently and said he was sorry if he was disturbing her. Lina shook her head, unsure what to say. He asked if she was hurt, and she shook her head again, unable to explain the pain that had nothing to do with bruises. He nodded slowly, like he understood, and said sometimes it helped just to have someone sit with you. Then he lowered himself onto the ground a short distance away, careful not to crowd her. They sat quietly beneath the tree. The silence was not uncomfortable. After a while, he opened his bag and took out a small loaf of bread wrapped in paper and a mango. He offered them to her with a gentle smile. Lina hesitated, surprised because no one ever shared food without a reason, but she accepted. When their fingers touched briefly, she felt a strange warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she did not have a name for. She bit into the mango, its sweetness sharp and familiar, and without warning her tears returned, heavier than before. Kindness felt overwhelming when you were not used to it. The man did not rush her or look away. He simply waited, letting her cry as if it was allowed. After a while he spoke softly and said, "Today is your birthday, isn't it?" Lina lifted her head so fast her neck hurt. Her eyes widened, because no one had said those words to her all day. She asked how he knew, and he smiled and said sometimes you could feel such things. For the first time that day she felt truly seen. He reached into his bag again and brought out a small object wrapped in cloth. He said he had meant to give it to his daughter when he returned home, his voice trembling slightly, but something told him Lina should have it instead. Lina hesitated because gifts were dangerous. They made you want more, but he waited patiently. She unwrapped it slowly and found a simple beaded bracelet, handmade, the colors bright against her dark skin. It was beautiful. "Happy birthday, Lina," he said with his dark skin and glowing brown eyes. When she asked how he knew her name, he chuckled softly and said he had asked one of the women at the gate. She slipped the bracelet onto her wrist, afraid it might disappear, and for the first time that day she smiled a real smile, wide and unguarded. They talked for a long time, her dark cheeks and perfect black African skin, and her with her glowing brown eyes, showed happiness. She told him her age, her favorite games, how she liked school, and how she dreamed of growing up to help children like herself. He listened carefully and told her the world needed people with hearts like hers. No one had ever spoken to her that way before. When the sun began to sink and the air cooled, he stood and said he had to go. Lina's chest tightened because good things never stayed. He knelt in front of her and said he could not promise to change everything, but he could promise that this moment was real and that she mattered. Then he walked away down the dusty road, turning once to wave. Lina sat beneath the tree long after he was gone, touching the bracelet, with her dark skin and brown eyes glowing, replaying every word. When she finally returned to the orphanage, nothing around her had changed, but something inside her had. For the first time she understood that being forgotten did not mean being worthless. Days became weeks and weeks became months. Life remained hard, but Lina carried that birthday with her like a small fire in her chest. Whenever the nights felt too long, she touched the bracelet and remembered the stranger who chose her when no one else did. One afternoon, the matron called her name and said someone was asking for her. Lina's heart raced as she walked toward the office, and there he was again, standing with the same gentle smile, holding papers instead of a bag. He said he remembered telling her he could not fix everything, but maybe he could fix one thing. That was the day Lina learned that in a world full of noise and neglect, the smallest acts of kindness could change a life forever, because the stranger who came to her birthday when no one else did not just give her a gift, he gave her a future.